To tell you the truth, it's been a while since I've been able to dive through a visual novel. If you can call it a VN, Corpse Party Blood Drive I played about a month ago, and you know I played a month before that. Technically, I did play Chapter 1 of Corpse Party 2, but I wasn't able to cover that on the channel because it's not a handheld game, at least not right now. But it was high due time I trekked through a visual novel once again. Recently released on the eShop, here is my review of Neko Miko for the Nintendo Switch. This story revolves around a young man plagued with constant bad luck. After losing an important job interview and being dumped by his girlfriend, he visits a rundown shrine in the hopes to pray and make an offering for better luck. But as he tosses a coin into the offering box, two cat girls dressed in shrine robes appear before him, wanting to bring him better fortune. They perform a ceremony dance to purify all of the bad luck from his body and soul, but it ends up failing, being too much for them to handle all at once. Thinking of a more long-term solution and having a hidden agenda of their own, they offer to move in with him until all of his bad luck is finally gone. The concept of this game's story is very cute and reminds me of the anime series The Helpful Fox Senko-san. But despite the cuteness of the story, there are some problems with it, and that starts with the length and the progression of the relationship between the main character and the two cat girls. To be as brief as I can about it, I feel it progresses way too quickly. I never really sensed there was a building romantic spark between the main character and either of the two girls, no matter which route I was on. So when you get to the part of the story where the romance happens, it kind of just pops out of nowhere. Of course, there's nothing wrong with romance. I absolutely love romance in all of the visual novels I play. This one just doesn't feel very natural. And unfortunately, that's not the end of the story's problems. The English translation has a lot of issues. To state some examples, many scenes are worded in a way that they don't make a lot of sense. I don't think I saw any commas in the entire script that had proper spacing after it. There are many occasions where the wrong name is referenced when one character is talking about another, and I found a couple areas where the entire dialogue sequence was completely wrong and taken from earlier in the scene, and everything that reacts to it acts like they said something completely different. It's certainly readable and you can understand what's being portrayed, but there are just a lot of issues with this translation. In terms of gameplay, this is a visual novel with some choice elements thrown into the mix. Now first of all, let's do what we need to do with all of these Switch visual novels and talk about the fact that this was originally an adult-themed H game. Basically, this game originally released on Steam just as it is on the Switch, having had the Japanese sex scenes removed from it as well as a lot of the artwork altered with what VN players call mosaics. Essentially having genitalia or private parts being covered up by mist, water, or something else that still makes sense for the scene. Granted, you're not missing a lot here because there was only 1 or 2 sex scenes in the game to begin with across all 4 routes. It's just worth noting that yes, this was originally an H game and now it's not. But now let's get away from that and get into progression and the VN features. And when it comes to those features, you do have a lot of typical tools, like skipping and auto-playing text, turning off the dialogue window to take screenshots, jumping backwards in the story through the script, and having hard save options so you can jump back to specific points when you want to go for other endings. But what this game has that I don't see often in other VNs is the ability to darken and lighten the text box behind all of the font for the game's script. And this is a pretty important feature because the text doesn't exactly blend with the backgrounds well, so being able to darken and lighten that box to make it easier to see and read really helps. Now in terms of progression, it's very simple. You start the game and go through story scenes until you get dialogue choices. There aren't many dialogue choices, but when you do get one, the choices you make determine what route or ending you go on out of 4 different routes. But despite having 4 different endings, let's go back to what I mentioned in the story section about this being a pretty brief game. The entire narrative of my first ending only took me about 2 to 2.5 hours to get, and going back to get the other 3 endings only took me about an hour more. Granted, the game's only $10, but I still feel the game was much too short from the actual length to how quickly the game closed itself out in the narrative. Now let's dive into presentation, which is really good. This game uses the emote visual novel engine that Neko Para used, making the models for the 2 girls constantly animated throughout the scenes. This makes things look a lot more dynamic, and there's a huge amount of detail from their expressions to the actual costumes they wear across the game. I have no problems with performance, so let's go right into battery life. On the original 2017 model, Neko Miko has a battery range of 3 hours and 52 minutes up to 5 hours and 6 minutes. On the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a range of 4 hours and 45 minutes up to 6 hours and 43 minutes. And on the V2 or Redbox 2019 model, it has a range of 5 hours and 44 minutes up to 9 hours and 33 minutes. Now in conclusion, Neko Miko is a cute little game for fans of shrine maidens and cat girls. But despite the cute concept and beautiful visuals, it's a flawed experience due to a lot of poor translation issues, short length, and not nearly enough build up to its romance elements in its 4 routes and endings. Reviews to Go rates Neko Miko for the Nintendo Switch a 6 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.